I've been driving trucks for over 15 years. I've seen some weird stuff on the road. Drunk drivers, animals running across the highway, even a guy dressed as a clown at 2 a.m. But nothing has ever shaken me like what happened on that empty stretch of highway. And to this day, I still don't know what I saw. It was just past midnight, and I was hauling freight through a long, desolate road in Texas. No streetlights, no gas stations, just the endless highway stretching into darkness. That's when I saw him, a hitchhiker walking along the shoulder. His head was down, hands in his pockets, moving slow like he'd been walking for miles. His clothes were dark and loose, blending into the night. I didn't stop. I never pick up hitchhikers. Too many bad stories, too much risk. But as I passed him, something felt off. His posture, his lack of reaction. Most people at least glance up when a truck roars past, but not him. He didn't even flinch. I shook off the weird feeling and kept driving. The highway was empty, not a single car behind me. Then, out of habit, I checked my side mirror, and my stomach dropped. The hitchhiker was still there, not behind me, not fading in the distance. He was walking right beside my truck, keeping perfect pace with my 60-mile-per-hour speed. I gripped the wheel, heart pounding. No, that's not possible. I flicked my high beams back, nothing on the road, checked the mirror again. He was still there, his head still down, hands in pockets, walking like he had all the time in the world. And then he turned his head, not fast, not startled, slowly, deliberately, and in the mirror I saw his face. No eyes, just dark, empty sockets. I nearly swerved off the road. I looked forward, forcing myself not to check the mirror again. I needed to get off this road. My hands were slick with sweat as I spotted a sign. Truck stop 2 miles. I pressed harder on the gas. The truck stop appeared like a beacon of hope. Bright lights, parked rigs, safety. I pulled in fast, shutting off the engine. My breath was ragged, hands still shaking as I forced myself to look at the mirror one last time. He was gone. I stepped out, stretching my legs, trying to shake off the fear. Other drivers were inside, chatting over coffee, like the world was normal. I went into the diner, ordered a coffee, and tried to clear my head. That's when an old trucker sitting nearby noticed me. "You okay, son?" he asked. I hesitated, then finally muttered, "Saw something weird on the road." He studied me for a moment, then nodded slowly. "The hitchhiker?" he asked. My blood ran cold. "You've seen him?" I whispered. He sighed, stirring his coffee. "Not just me. A lot of truckers have. Late at night, empty roads, he shows up. Always keeps pace, and if you stop, you never get back on the road." I swallowed hard. "What happens if you look at him too long?" I asked. He gave me a long, serious stare. "Nobody knows." I finished my coffee, shook it off, and got back on the road. I never saw the hitchhiker again. But now, whenever I'm driving at night, I never check my mirrors for too long, because I know what I'll see. And next time, he might not just be walking. Driving long-haul routes means spending a lot of nights alone on the road. You get used to empty highways, weird rest stops, and eerie stretches where it feels like you're the last person on Earth. But one night I took a shortcut to save time, and I ended up on a road that shouldn't exist. It was just past 2 a.m., and I was hauling freight through rural Arizona. The GPS suggested a shortcut, a small highway that would shave an hour off my trip. I hesitated. I don't like taking unfamiliar roads at night, but I was exhausted, and an hour saved meant an extra hour of sleep. So I took the exit. At first, everything seemed normal. 2-lane highway, no streetlights, desert on both sides. The radio was playing softly, the only sound besides my engine. Then the signs started changing. The first sign was handwritten, nailed to a crooked post on the side of the road. "Turn around." I frowned. Some kind of joke? A leftover warning for road work. A few miles later, another sign, painted in red. You shouldn't be here. My grip on the wheel tightened. There were no other cars, no intersections, just darkness. The GPS screen froze. I tapped it, but nothing changed. The map just showed a blank space where the road should be. And that's when I saw the third sign. No one leaves after midnight. I slammed the brakes. Something wasn't right. I turned the truck around, heading back toward the highway. But after 10 minutes of driving, I passed the same 3 signs again. Turn around. You shouldn't be here. No one leaves after midnight. Panic set in. I checked my watch. 2:37 a.m. I had been driving straight, so how the hell was I back in the same place? I grabbed my CB radio. Anyone on this channel? I need directions. I'm lost. Static. Then, after a moment, a voice. Weak. Distant. If you see the gas station, don't stop. I didn't have time to process what I just heard. Because up ahead, a gas station appeared, neon lights flickering. One car parked outside. The road had been nothing but desert for miles. Where did this place come from? Something inside me screamed, "Don't stop." I gritted my teeth, gripped the wheel, and drove past. As I passed the gas station, I dared to glance inside, and I swear to God, everyone inside was staring at me, not moving, just watching. And then, the lights went out. I stepped on the gas, my heart pounding. The CB radio crackled again, the same voice. "You're almost out. When you see the exit, take it, no matter what." I didn't reply. A few minutes later, I saw it, a small, unmarked exit ramp. No signs, no lights, just a narrow road leading back toward the main highway. I didn't think. I took it. The second my wheels hit the new road, everything changed. The GPS unfroze. The radio started playing normally. And when I checked my mirrors, the road behind me was gone. Just desert, like it had never been there. I pulled into a real truck stop an hour later, still shaking. I checked my CB radio one last time. Nothing. Just silence. I never found that road again. It doesn't exist on any map. But sometimes, late at night, when I'm scanning for shortcuts, I swear I see a faint road on the GPS, one with no name, and I know if I take it, I might not come back. If you've ever driven long-haul routes, you know how lonely the road can get. Hours stretch into eternity, the hum of the engine your only companion. Sometimes the CB radio keeps you sane, chatter from other drivers, weather updates, or just the occasional joke to break the silence. But one night, my CB radio picked up something I wasn't supposed to hear, and I'll never forget what happened next. It was around 3 a.m., and I was somewhere deep in the Nevada desert. Nothing but an endless stretch of highway, miles from the nearest town. The road was quiet, too quiet. I reached for my CB radio, flipping through channels, hoping for some chatter. Static, more static. Then, a voice. "Help me! I'm trapped in a truck." It was weak, trembling, a man's voice. I grabbed the mic. "Breaker, breaker, this is Roadrunner. Where are you? What truck are you in?" Silence. I waited, listening. Then, more static. "Please, I don't know where I am." My stomach tightened. This wasn't normal. I checked my mirrors. The road behind me was empty. There were no exits, no rest stops, just miles of nothing. I called again. "Buddy, you need to give me something. What truck are you in?" The radio crackled. I think it's mine. But it's not moving. The lights are off. Everything is dark. I think I'm in a trailer." My pulse sped up. A trailer? Was he locked inside one? I turned on my high beams, scanning the road ahead. Still nothing. Then, the voice came back. "I hear an engine. Is that you?" I froze. I had seen no one on this road for hours, but somehow, he could hear a truck running. I reached for the mic, hand unsteady. "Where exactly do you hear it from?" Silence. Then, a faint scratching sound, like nails on metal. I think I'm in your trailer. I hit the brakes hard. The truck lurched forward before grinding to a stop. My heart pounded in my chest as I threw on my hazards and jumped out. I ran to the back of my trailer. The lock was still intact, no signs of forced entry. With shaking hands, I unlatched the door and swung it open. The trailer was empty. Nothing inside but the echo of my own breathing. I climbed back into the cab, hands still trembling. I grabbed the mic. You still there? Nothing. Who are you? Silence. Then, finally, a single faint whisper. You picked me up a long time ago. You just never noticed. The radio cut to static, and then went dead. I flipped through every channel. Nothing. Like the voice had never been there. I never heard him again. I tried telling myself it was a radio glitch, a weird signal bouncing off the desert, but sometimes, when I'm driving alone at night, the CB crackles. Just for a second. And for a split moment, I think I hear a voice. Waiting. Listening. Because maybe he never left. There's something about driving at night that makes the world feel less real. The highway stretches endlessly. Nothing but darkness and the occasional glow of headlights in the distance. You get used to the loneliness, the long hours, the hum of the engine. But one night, I wasn't alone. And I still don't know what I saw. It was just past 2 a.m., somewhere along a long stretch of Interstate 80. The road had been quiet for hours, not a single car or truck in sight. Then, in the distance, I saw headlights. A line of trucks, maybe 6 or 7 of them, driving in a perfect formation. I had no idea where they came from. One minute the road was empty, the next they were just there. I figured it was just a convoy of truckers traveling together. It's not uncommon. But as I got closer, something felt off. The trucks were identical. Same make, same model, same trailer. No logos, no markings, just plain white rigs moving in perfect sync. And the weirdest part? Their taillights didn't flicker. Every truck I've ever seen, the lights shift slightly with the movement of the road. But these? They were completely still. Like they weren't even real. I was getting uneasy, so I decided to pass them. I signaled, changed lanes, and hit the gas. But as I pulled alongside, I glanced into the first truck's cab. No driver. My chest tightened. No way. Maybe I missed them? Maybe they were slumped down, asleep at the wheel? I sped up to check the next truck. Empty. And the next. And the next. All of them. Driverless. Panic crept in. My pulse pounded in my ears as I slammed the gas pedal. I needed to get ahead of them. But no matter how fast I went, they matched my speed. If I hit 70, they hit 70. 80, they did too. I pushed my rig past 90 miles per hour, dangerous as hell for a truck this size. But they stayed right beside me, perfectly lined up, like they were playing with me, like they wanted me to know I couldn't leave. I saw an exit up ahead, a small, run-down truck stop. I didn't think, I just took it. As I turned off the highway, my hands clenched the wheel, my breath shaky. I pulled into the lot, parked, and sat there, my heart hammering. For the first time, I didn't want to look in my mirrors, but I had to. Slowly, I turned my head, and the convoy was gone. The highway was empty again, like they were never there. I stumbled inside the diner, my nerves shot, ordered coffee, trying to shake the fear. That's when an old trucker sitting nearby spoke. "You all right, son? You look like you seen a ghost." I hesitated, then muttered, "Saw something weird on the road?" He nodded slowly. "Convoy?" he asked. My blood ran cold. "You've seen them?" I whispered. He exhaled, staring into his coffee. "Not just me. Some roads. They don't belong to us. If you see them again..." He looked up, his eyes serious. "Don't try to pass. Just keep driving. Don't let them know you saw them. I don't know what I encountered that night. I've never seen them again. But now, whenever I spot a convoy of trucks moving too perfectly together, I don't try to pass. I don't look into their cabs, because I know I might not like what I see. Truck stops are supposed to be a safe haven, a place to refuel, grab a bite, and rest before getting back on the road. But one night, I pulled into a truck stop that shouldn't exist, and I barely made it out. It was past midnight, and I was running low on fuel while driving through rural Wyoming. The last sign had said the next station wasn't for another 50 miles, but my gauge was dropping fast. Then, out of nowhere, I saw a truck stop. A classic old-school diner, a faded neon sign buzzing weakly, and a couple of rigs already parked out front. It looked a little too isolated, but I wasn't about to be picky. I pulled in, shut off the engine, and stepped out. That's when I noticed something strange. The place was dead silent. No crickets, no wind, no distant sounds of cars on the highway. Just my own breathing. I walked inside expecting to find the usual truck stop scene. Sleepy truckers, a bored cashier, the smell of greasy food. Instead, the air was stale, like no one had cooked in here for years. The diner was clean, but too clean. The booths were perfectly arranged. The coffee pots were full, but not steaming. And the people, they were too still. A waitress stood behind the counter, staring straight ahead, not blinking. A man in a trucker's cap sat in a booth, hands folded neatly on the table, eyes unblinking. No one acknowledged me. It felt like walking into a diorama instead of a real place. I cleared my throat. "Pump still working outside?" I asked. The cashier, a pale, thin man in a name tag that just said Bill, slowly turned his head toward me. His mouth moved like he was forming words, but no sound came out. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. I needed to leave. Now. Trying to act normal, I muttered, "Never mind," and turned to leave. That's when I noticed the wall of framed photos near the exit. They were old pictures, truckers standing outside, smiling, some leaning against their rigs. The kind of thing you see in small-town diners. But as I looked closer, my breath caught. I recognized some of the rigs parked outside, the exact same rigs, same license plates. But the photos, they were black and white, as if they had been sitting there for decades. And the drivers in the pictures, they were the same people sitting inside the diner. I bolted for the door. The second I stepped outside, I felt like I could breathe again. The air was normal, real. I sprinted to my truck, not even bothering to fuel up. When I slammed the door shut, my hands were shaking. But as I reached for the ignition, I risked one last glance at the truck stop. Through the diner window, the people inside were no longer sitting. They were all standing, and they were facing the door, watching me. I floored it out of there, not stopping until I reached a real truck stop 50 miles down the road. Still shaken, I asked the cashier if he knew about the place I had just come from. He frowned. "Ain't no truck stop between here and Casper," I insisted. "I just stopped there, had a big neon sign out front." He gave me a weird look. "There was a place like that, but it burned down over 30 years ago. Truckers used to stop there all the time. Then one night, it just caught fire. Everyone inside was trapped." My blood ran cold. I grabbed my phone, ready to pull up my GPS history. But the last 50 miles, no record of me ever stopping. I don't know where I went that night, but sometimes, when I'm driving through empty highways at night, I see a dim neon glow in the distance. And I never take that exit, because I know some places are waiting for you to come back. I've been driving trucks for over a decade, and one thing I always say is this: the road plays tricks on you, especially at night. You can drive for hours and not see a soul. But this one night, The road didn't just trick me, it trapped me. I was heading through eastern Utah, hauling freight overnight, when my GPS suggested a shortcut. It looked like a 2-lane highway that would cut off about 45 minutes from my trip. I'd never taken it before, but I was behind schedule, so I figured, why not? At first, the road was quiet. Too quiet. Desert stretched out endlessly on both sides, and the sky above was black. No moon, no stars. The only light came from my headlights and the soft glow of the dashboard. Then about 20 minutes in, I saw something strange. A road sign. Welcome to Route 119. Drive safe. It was odd because I'd already passed that exact same sign when I first got on the shortcut. I told myself it was just a coincidence. Maybe the same signs were used multiple times. That happens. But then I saw another one. Rest area 3 miles, clean facilities. I remembered that one too. Same distance, same wording. And sure enough, 3 miles later, there it was again. The same rest area, same flickering lights, same broken vending machine in the window. I know because I'd made a mental note of it earlier. I had a sinking feeling in my chest. I was looping. I slowed the truck and pulled over on the shoulder. I checked my GPS. It was frozen. The screen showed my truck just sitting in the middle of blank gray space, like I wasn't even on a mapped road anymore. I checked the clock. 3:03 a.m. I waited 10 minutes. Still 3:03. The hair on my arms stood up. I turned off the engine to reset everything. When I turned it back on, the dashboard lit up, but all the gauges were stuck. Fuel, speed, temperature. Nothing moved. Then the radio buzzed to life, but no music, no voices, just a low static hum. And then, through the noise, a whisper. You're not supposed to be here. I floored it. I didn't care about the shortcut anymore, I just wanted off that road. I sped past the same mile markers over and over. I watched the same tumbleweed blow across the road again and again. Then I saw a light ahead. Not headlights. A single blinking yellow traffic light over a small 4-way intersection. It hadn't been there before. A green road sign hung crooked on one post. It simply said, "Wake up." I didn't even think. I slammed on the brakes and took the first turn off that loop. The second I did, everything changed. My dashboard flickered back to life. GPS started working. The clock jumped to 4:17 a.m. The highway I had turned onto wasn't on my route, but it was real, familiar. I had escaped. When I finally made it to the next truck stop, I told another driver what happened. He nodded slowly and said, "You took the loop." It shows up sometimes when you're tired. When you've been driving too long without stopping. People don't always make it out. I haven't taken shortcuts since. And if I see a road that's too empty, too quiet, too perfect, I stay far, far away. Because I've been on a highway that doesn't end. And trust me, some roads weren't made for us. I was hauling a load through a remote stretch of highway in New Mexico just after midnight. The kind of place where your headlights are the only thing keeping you from driving straight into the void. The road curved lazily through the desert. It was dead quiet, except for the low rumble of my engine and the occasional gust of wind that rocked the trailer. And then I saw him. A man. He was standing in the ditch beside the road. Not moving, not waving, just standing, facing my truck as I passed. He wasn't wearing anything unusual, a jacket, jeans, boots. No reflective gear, no sign of a car, no backpack, nothing. But something about the way he stood there, completely still, straight posture, arms hanging loosely at his sides, it just wasn't right. I glanced in the mirror as I passed. He didn't turn, didn't flinch. 10 minutes later, I saw him again. Same man, same ditch, same eerie stillness. I slowed down this time, trying to get a better look. He wasn't looking at the road anymore. He was looking straight at me. I swear, he hadn't moved a muscle since the first time I passed him. But how was that possible? There hadn't been a single exit, no side roads, just 2 straight lanes and desert. It was like I was stuck in some kind of loop. Another few miles and I saw him again. This time he was closer to the road, still just standing there, watching. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. A strange pressure built in my chest, like I was being dared to stop. I flicked on my high beams. That's when I realized he had no face. Not like it was covered or masked, just smooth skin, stretched over where a face should be. I slammed on the gas. As I sped up, my CB radio crackled to life. I hadn't touched it in hours, but no one was speaking. Just a low, gravelly voice whispering, "Don't stop. Don't look back." That was enough for me. I kept driving, eyes fixed forward. I passed 2 more ditches. No sign of the man. Eventually, I saw the glow of a rest stop ahead. Bright lights, other rigs, real people. I pulled in, parked, and sat in the cab for a few minutes just breathing. Inside, I asked the guy at the counter if he'd ever heard of anyone seeing a man in the ditch out there. He blinked slowly and nodded. "He shows up sometimes," he said. "Always the same spot, always watching. Some say he was a trucker who died on that stretch years ago. Now he waits for someone to stop." I stared at him, goosebumps rising on my arms. "What happens if you do stop?" I asked. He shook his head slowly. "No one who does ever makes it here to ask." I never saw the man again. But now every time I'm on a dark highway and I see something or someone by the side of the road, I keep driving. Because not everything out there wants help. Some things just want to be noticed. And once they know you've seen them, they wait. They say out on the open road you can go hours without seeing another soul. But one night, I saw someone who looked exactly like me. Too much like me. I was rolling through northern Oklahoma, quiet stretch just before dawn. The sky was still dark, but the faint blue of early morning had started to bleed into the horizon. Out of nowhere, my CB radio crackled. I hadn't used it in hours. A voice, static-laced but clear, broke through. "You've got someone on your tail. Looks like your rig." I blinked. "My rig?" I flicked my mirror. Nothing there. Road was empty behind me. I radioed back. "Come again." But no response. Just dead air. About 10 minutes later, I stopped at a small fuel station. Only one pump and a diner that looked like it hadn't been updated since the 70s. As I was finishing up, I heard another truck pulling in behind me. Same model as mine. Same trailer, same color, same license plate. I froze. I checked again. It was an exact match. Every dent, every scrape, identical to mine. And then, the door opened. A man climbed down. I couldn't see his face at first. He was wearing a hoodie, head down. But the way he moved, it was like looking in a mirror. Same boots, same stride. I called out, "Hey, nice truck." He didn't answer. He just turned slowly, then looked up, and it was my face. But not right. His eyes were too dark, too wide, like he hadn't blinked in hours. And there was this crooked half smile on his face that didn't reach his eyes. I stepped back toward my truck. He didn't follow. He just stood there, watching. Then he turned, got back in his truck, my truck, and pulled away. As I sat in the cab, shaken, the CB radio buzzed again. The same voice, faint and tired. Some nights, you meet the version of yourself that doesn't make it. Just keep driving. I didn't know what it meant, but I knew one thing. I wasn't staying there. I got back on the highway and didn't look back. I drove for hours, daylight finally pouring in across the landscape like a warm blanket. At my next stop, I told a few other drivers what happened. One old guy nodded slowly. "Yeah," he said. "Some call it the mirror rider. Shows up to the lonely ones. Drivers who've been pushing too hard, too long. He's not you. Not yet. But he could be, if you don't slow down. I'll never know what I really saw that night. Maybe stress, maybe something worse. But now, every time I see another truck that looks a little too much like mine, I keep my distance. And if you ever spot a rig with your name on the side, already parked where you were heading, don't go over. Just keep driving. Because some reflections aren't meant to wave back.